I want to cover how to do an inspection on the power head and make sure that the holes where we pull vacuum are not obstructed. And I want us to do this inspection like once a week and just have a look at those and make sure all the holes on the skid bar are free and clear so we get maintain our good dry times. Inevitably, they're going to get obstructed and get debris in there. It accumulates, and then we're going to have to get it out. And a couple ways of dealing with that. One is taking an Allen tool and just pushing the debris out. Likewise, with a dental tool, we usually keep 3 or 4 different versions of these around. They are fabulous for removing O-rings from tanks, but they can also be used at times to get debris up here in the corners and in the hard to get to places. A drill bit on something that's not too impacted, just by hand twisting that bit a little bit will work really, really well. I don't mess around. I don't have a lot of time, so I take that power head once a week. I get it facing me like it's facing the camera right now, and then I take my drill bit and I go one skid bar at a time, and I just get after it and I get the obstructions. Usually there's only 3 or 4 or 5 obstructed holes in the whole assembly, and this will get the job done quickly and we'll be back on the road again. If you work for me, you need to be doing that once a week, minimum. Thank you. I want to take a minute and cover how to remove the vacuum head weldment and the rotary head suction bar assembly from the Star, the Powerhead Star. So to do that, you're going to need a 7/16 wrench, a 5/32 Allen, and we're going to just simply put that in there. It's going to be tight initially, so we're going to have to give that a nice little twist, and then once we get that going, you can kind of do this with your fingers and easily remove that screw from that assembly. I'm going to demonstrate the removal here where you can see it a little more clearly. This is obviously a broken one, and so we're going to use our 5/32 Allen, our 7/16 wrench. When we do that, it will come free from the Star head assembly right here. That will come free. You'll be able to pull this off of where it is there. Once a week we should be doing an inspection of this hose and making sure this hose is in good shape and that it's seated all the way down on both ends. All the way down means all the way down. And if it has any sort of a compromise in that vacuum hose, we need to be replacing that. We've got our vacuum head weldment and suction bar assembly off in there, and now we're going to go over how to repair and replace the skid gasket in here. A couple of options for removing our rotary head suction bar, getting to our skid gasket, and removing those parts from the vacuum head weldment is a 3/8 inch wrench, which you may need to use. This might be on there a little snug to get it initially. Probably a better way to do that is to take the DeWalt, and it's got a 3/8 drive on there, and we put a 3/8 socket on there. We make sure that we're going to loosen the nut. It's going to hurt a little bit if you go the wrong way, and boom, that's free, and that's free. Now, if you're lucky, this will come apart. I was lucky. That's not usually the case, and I'm going to show you what we do when that's really stuck on. Okay, I'm going to cover how to remove the suction bar or the skid gasket when it's really bound to the vacuum head weldment. So this is the vacuum head weldment, this is the skid gasket, and this is the suction bar. So when this is really stuck, what I don't want us to do is I don't want us to pound on it. This is a cast assembly. While this is stainless and it's very hard, some of these attachment things aren't quite so hard, and it's just not a good idea to be pounding and putting strange forces on cast materials. It's also not a good idea to be pounding on one side of something in through a cast material. where you're not applying the forces evenly. So we want to be smart about it. They do get stuck. It's very frustrating. And we built a fixture for this. Now this is our crude prototype fixture. We're going to refine this a little bit, but I want to show you the basic concepts of it. It's got a jack screw, 2 of them that match up on our vacuum bar mounting screws. And basically we attach this to the skid weldment. And it's kind of counterintuitive, but it attaches like this. This goes on the skid bar side of things. There's a little washer just to kind of make sure that things are evenly distributed. And we're going to fasten that down hand tight. Hand tight is good enough. It could be a little sloppy, but it'll work a little better for you if we fasten it down hand tight. That's about a 3/8 inch bolt there. Now because these jack screws, there's about an inch gap here on each side, and in order to make this process go a little smoother, a little quicker, we're going to insert a spacer in there. This is a 3/16 Allen. So we're going to put our little spacers in there. They love to fall out. We're going to do a little redesign on this. I have some ideas on how we can make this better. But you know what? It serves the purpose, and I just want to illustrate the concepts. Once we get those spacers in there, if we tighten these down, first of all, it'll keep the spacers from falling out. And second of all, let's get them tightened down here so they're not falling out while I'm making my video. Alright, they're snug down. And what happens is as we tighten those jack screws, it's going to push evenly on theirs. In fact, this side over here is already starting to come out. You want to sort of jack these screws down evenly, and you'll push that assembly out. Now when they get really bound, we might be leaning into this a little bit. But the nice thing is it gives us the optimal opportunity to remove that without actually breaking something. And once it gets to a point, I should have had a flathead screwdriver here. Take that flathead screwdriver, you can get it in there, wedge it in there a little bit. That will come off from there. And now we can replace our weldment or our skid gasket or our suction bar. When we reassemble our suction bar assembly with our gasket, skid gasket to our weldment, make sure you orient it this way. The bar here goes in front of where the vacuum hose connects there, not this way. If you do it this way, you're going to get a chance to do it over. So make sure that when you insert that, you do it so like this way. Of course, you've got your cheat right on your power head where you can look and see, but you know, human beings, we get busy. Sometimes we forget to check, and then we get to do it over, so let's avoid that. So once we get that, we're going to take the 3/8 nut, and we can either wrench that back on there by hand using our 3/8 wrench, or we can take our trusty DeWalt with a 3/8 socket on there. Make sure it's not on the drill setting. Make sure we got some torque on there. I would suggest starting in about the 14 area of the torque setting and fasten that down until you hear the torque kick in, and that's it. It's ready to go back on the star head assembly. Okay, so now you've replaced your skid gasket on your skid, and you've got the suction bar reattached to the weldment, and you're ready to attach that back to your power head. Except here we've got a dilemma. We've got a problem. We've got a big problem. Trainee was using this, got too close to a tile floor, and busted the star arm. It's a very common thing that happens. It's very unsettling when it happens to you the first time. It'll really set you back. Now, we carry 2 of these stars, Powerhead Stars, in the van, so when this happens to us, we simply unscrew the broken one, go out to the van, get a fresh one, and we keep on rocking. Now, if you don't carry an extra one in the van, you keep an extra one at the shop, you've got to talk to the customer, you got to get in the van, you got to go somewhere. If you're lucky, you can meet somebody from the shop bringing it your way, cut the time in half. We just don't want to deal with that. The better way is to spend the money, get the extra power head, keep a spare in the van. It'll pay for itself in one day's production, typically. So, I just want to cover quickly what we do when we replace this broken star arm. So we're going to take, we have a 1/2 inch socket and a 3/8 inch drive. We have to loosen all 5 of these hex nuts. The big one in the center looks like something you'd have to get on and crank on. That's all show, it's no go. So we don't have to worry about that. We just got to loosen these guys. The best thing is to take your socket and loosen those and go around the farm here one time. And just make sure that you carefully broke those loose, and then take your 1/2 inch socket, pop it onto your dewalt. Make sure you're in loosen mode and pretend you're on the NASCAR pit crew and you're the tire changer. And now this assembly is free of the hub. And now we can go about the business of taking the next step and replacing this arm. Unfortunately, the next step here would be to remove these 2 skid assemblies. And then what we're going to want to do is take this thing outside and find a safe place. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking I think this is a 4.5 inch abrasive grinding wheel. And what we're going to be doing is there's a couple rivets right there that we need to grind that head off until we're down flat with this broken star arm plate. Okay, so we're going to grind that down flat. So once we remove these, we will go outside with a face shield. We will set up this grinder to where we can get right down there and make, as that thing's spinning around, we're just going to grind in like that motion, and we're going to do it on both sides until that is down flat. I will insist that we have a face shield, that we do this in a safe area, and you want to make sure you know which way the sparks are flying. You want them to fly away from you. Once that's ground down flat, we will take this over to something very solid that has a solid hole in the center. And I'm just doing this for illustrative purposes. I would not suggest at all doing that with this particular thing, but I'll go over to a bumper on an old truck or something that's got a hole in the center of it, and take a punch and line that punch up with that rivet and pop it a good one. And you might have to pop it a couple, 2 or 3 times, but you pop both those rivets and then this thing will just come right off in there. And then we're ready to take our star arm kit that we keep in the crib from HRI and assemble that. And it's a real easy assembly. And then our star arm is repaired and we can put our skid assembly back on there and we're back in business. That's it. Thank you.